All right, let me just double check, make sure we're working. Need to change the name of this. What is today? What is that? 1.3? Midpoint and Distance, August 30th. Okay, so we are streaming. We're going to switch over. Okay, so this is just refreshing your memory from what we did last week. I'm going to refresh your memory, and this is to help because I didn't make a video last week. I was going to do it 6th period, and I had to leave. So let's start with what the distance formula looks like. So the distance formula, remember, is that square root, right? And then it's x. And remember, you learned x1 minus x2, but we learned last week that 1 and 2 doesn't make any difference, right? So x minus x squared plus y minus y squared. Or we could write it, y'all remember the little symbol I used? That meant subtract. Remember that little triangle? So change in x squared plus change in y squared. And that little triangle just means change in, which means you're subtracting 2 x's or 2 y's, right? Okay, so that is the distance formula, and that's finding the distance between 2 points. So anytime you're looking for the distance between 2 points on a coordinate plane, like this coordinate plane we have right here on number 5, then you use that formula, okay? So let's do, I don't know if we did number 6 together, so let's go ahead and do number 6 together real quick. So the first thing we have to do is identify our points. So remember, a point is always an x first, a y second, right? So we're going to look at, what is our x? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Oh, it's 4, 4. Look at that. 4, 4. That's our point. And then our y for D, or I don't know why I said our y for D. Our point for D is going to be negative 2, 2, 3, negative 4. Negative 2, negative 4. So those are our 2 points. Do you need something, Mr. Blackwood? Okay. We're doing distance formula today. Okay, so those are our 2 points, right? So here's our x value, here's our y value. Here's our x value, here's our y value, right? So when we plug this in to our distance formula, remember what we talked about last week? We're going to square this. So does it matter which one we put first? Doesn't make any difference, because when you square a negative, you still get a positive, right? So which one do y'all want to use first, the 4 or the negative 2? The 4? Why would you choose that one? Just out of curiosity. Then you don't have to deal with the negative. So we've got 4, and remember our equation is minus, so 4 minus negative 2. And then we're going to square that, right? I may have to run off onto this other paper. Let me slide it over. And then what about our y values? Which one do you want to use first, 4 or negative 4? 4. So 4 minus negative 4 squared, right? What happens when you have this minus negative business? Remember when we talked last week about how adding or subtracting a negative from your life makes a positive thing happen, right? Taking out the bad. So that's going to give us 6 squared. And then what do we get here? 8 squared, right? Right, so what is 6 squared? 36. What's 8 squared? 64. What are 36 and 64 added together? And what's the square root of 100? 10. So that one's 10. All right, so I want you guys to try number 7. Okay, try number 7. Let's see how you do. So we started this last week, but we didn't get it finished. So we're sort of refreshing from the weekend.
Always a good idea.
Yeah. Angel, you done? That was fast. Remember, if you need a calculator, you can get one. Right over there. All right, so Donovan, are you done with this one? Okay, let's go ahead and go over this one real quickly and make sure that everybody's got it set up right, okay? So, how did you set yours up? Which X did you use first? You used 2? Did anybody use 4 first? Okay, so we did 2 minus 4 squared. Then what did you do for your Y's? 4 and 3, so 4 minus 3. And like we said last week, it doesn't matter. Doesn't make any difference because you're going to square that, right? So what's 2 minus 4? Negative 2. What happens when I square that negative? I'm going to get me a positive, right? So what is negative 2 squared? 4. And then what's 1 squared? I didn't even ask y'all. I just kept writing. But what's 4 minus 3? So did you do 3 minus 4? So you got negative 1, right? But what did you get when you squared it?
I got 1.
You got 1. So if you do 4 minus 3 and you get positive 1, you still get 1, right? So what's 4 plus 1?
5.
And then if we take the square root, that's not going to be a perfect square. As it is, we can leave this right now because we haven't talked about simplifying radicals that are not perfect squares. So you can leave it like this, or you can plug it in your calculator and get an approximate answer. So what would the approximate answer be on that? 2.2. All right, I'm going to trust y'all because I don't know off the top of my head what square root of 5 is. Okay, so that's distance. Y'all remember this? All right, let's look at midpoint. So remember that midpoint formula is the one that looks super confusing, but when you break it down, it's really a basic equation, right? So it looks confusing because it's in these great old big parentheses and it has this comma. But that's just because you're finding a point, an X and a Y. So remember, to do this, you add together 2 X's and divide by 2. That's just finding the average X. That's all you're doing is finding the average X. And then you add 2 Y's together and divide by 2, and all you're doing there is finding the average Y. And the average is the one that's between the two that you're looking at. Which one is right in the middle? That's what average means, what's right in the middle. So if we look at number 17 down here, right? And it says we're given the midpoint, the endpoints. And we want to find the midpoint of this. What do? Well, we're going to take this X and this X and add them together and divide by 2. What is 3 plus 5? Divided by 2. So that's our X value, 4. And then we're going to take our 2 Y's, 1 and 3. 1 plus 3. Add them together and divide by 2. What's 1 plus 3? Divide by 2. 2. And so this is our midpoint between those 2 points. Now what happens if you get a decimal? Is that okay? Can we have a decimal? Can a point be part of something, not the whole? Yes, we can have a decimal. Decimals are okay. There's nothing wrong with having a decimal. Okay, y'all try 18 real quick. See if you can get 18. Who wants to share their answer? 1-4. Who agrees with me? Andy's doing a very slight nod. No. What'd you get, Andy? We're gonna work on it. We'll get better. 0.50. Does anybody agree with Andy? Nobody agrees with Andy. Nobody gets there. We have. You just going with Andy Smart, so.
That's what it should have been. I think it's like 1.5.
You got 0.52, so you have half of Andy's answer, but 2 and 0. I feel like we perhaps should go over this one. Let's look at it, okay? So this is number 18. First of all, did you identify your X's and Y's correctly? Okay, so this is an X and this is an X, right? And remember, we're adding them together. So we've got -4 plus 5 divided by 2. Okay? I'm going to give you a little tip on adding and subtracting positives and negatives. Think of them as good guys and bad guys. All right? The negatives are bad guys. The positives are good guys. They get together. When good guys and bad guys get together, they have a fight. Each good guy pairs up with one bad guy, and they fight till they're both dead. Like they just kill each other. Whoever's left over is the winner, and that's how many you have. So if you look at this, we have 4 bad guys, 5 good guys. Who's going to win this fight? The good guys. But by how many? How many is still going to be alive at the end of the fight? Just 1. So you have 1 good guy left. Y'all see how that works? Now, that's your 0.5, right? So Andy had that right. That X was right, 0.5. You could also leave it as 1/2. You can leave it as a fraction. So 1/2 or 0.5. Okay, let's do our Y. So we have 2 plus -2, right? 2 plus -2 divided by 2, because that's our Y values. 2 good guys, 2 bad guys. What happens when 2 good guys and 2 bad guys fight to the death? There's nothing left. What do you have? 0. What's 0 divided by 2? 0. You still got 0. So, guess what, y'all? Who was right? Andy. Good job, Andy. Good job. Okay. I want y'all to try to find the midpoint on number 19. Let's see if you can do it. Bye, Mr. Blackwood. Have a good day. You can get one. Did you just not want to get one when he was in here?
No, I didn't. Right now, the first answer that I have to actually.
You need one. Does Mr. Blackwood scare y'all?
No. I say I don't know. First day of school. I mean, I would say I don't
He's a nice man. I wouldn't want to be on his bad side though.
No. I'm threatening the kid for whispering.
Yeah.
10 days last.
But he's a good boss. I like working for him.
Yeah. I was like,
We were going over.
Hmm?
but like if he saw like you didn't
No. Well, I mean that's a possibility, of course, but it's in the teaching world. What happens if you're not a good teacher, you're not doing your job, then they like do things to try to support you and help you become a better teacher. I don't have that problem. I don't need help. No, every teacher can be a better teacher, even the best ones. You got an answer yet?
Yeah. When we were going on the roll, first kid,
Uh-huh.
blue hoodie, I don't remember who it was. He was whispering to his friend. He was like, Mr. Blackman, hey, get you whispering again till you got 10 days of ice.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be on his bad side. So far, I haven't ever been, but that's because I just do what I'm supposed to be doing. Do your job. You don't have any trouble. That's everywhere, y'all. As long as you're doing your job the way you're supposed to do it, then you don't have to worry about your bosses. There's no, unless your bosses are just real jerks for no reason. And every once in a while, there'll be somebody in power who's like that, but that's not normal. Okay, who wants to share their answer? What you got, Brandon?
2.5 and 1.
Who agrees with them? Like pretty much everybody. Good job. That is the answer. It is 3.5 and 1. Let's go over it really, really quick. So we add 2 plus 5, because those are our x values, and divide by 2. And then we add 0 plus 2 and divide by 2 for our y values. And remember, that's why it looks like it's all weird looking, because we're making a point. So 2 plus 5 is 7, divided by 2 is 3.5, or I'm going to write it as a fraction, 3 and 1/2. We can write it either way. And then 0 plus 2 is 2 divided by 2 gives us 1, and that's our answer. Okay, but that was finding midpoint if you said that these two are the endpoint. However, if you look at the directions on that, on number 19, what does it tell you? It says find the missing endpoint if P is the midpoint of NQ. Y'all see that? If it's the midpoint. So we've got this N. So this is something we haven't discussed yet. We have this N that's 2, 0. This P that's 5. I just wrote that completely wrong. Hang on. This P that is 5, 2. And oh my gosh. I'd like y'all to look at this. It's like my brain can't even function. Like, just can't. Okay. Let me try this again. N was 2, 0. What's P? 5, 2. And we're looking for what? What's it called? We've got P. It's not missing. Q. So we're looking for Q. And P, I'm moving the wrong paper. This is what we've got. We've got N, Q, and then P's right here in the middle. That's what we've got. That's what they're telling us, right? They're saying P is our midpoint. It is our midpoint. Y'all, this is one of the easiest things to do, and yet students every year think this is super hard, but it's really not. All you have to do is look at the difference between this, and whatever that difference is, add it onto that. So what's the difference between 2 and 5? 3. So guess what we have to do to get to the next point? Add 3. So if we add 3 to 5, what do we get? 8. What's the difference between these two? So what do we have to do? Add 2 to 2, and what are we going to get? 4. And that's our other endpoint. So if this one here is 2, 0, and then this middle is 5, 2, then this end over here is 8, 4. Y'all see how that works? Okay, we're going to do a couple more. All right, so what's that next one? N is 5, 4. What's P? 6 and 3. And then we're trying to find Q, right? Trying to find Q. So they gave us one endpoint. They gave us the midpoint, and we want to find the other endpoint, right? So how do we go from 5 to 6? You add 1. So guess what we're going to do? Add 1. So what's 6 plus 1? 7. How do we go from 4 to 3? So guess what we're going to do? Subtract 1. What's 3 minus 1? 2. So our new Q is 7, 2. What do y'all think about that? That's not that hard, is it? You know what the hardest part is? Is paying attention to whether they ask you for midpoint or endpoint. Are they giving you 2 endpoints, or are they giving you an endpoint and a midpoint, and they want you to find the other endpoint? That's the hardest part. The actual math part itself is real simple, right? Let's do another one. So what's number 21? Y'all tell me them points. What's 3, 9? Oh, there's no N. We got Q is 3, 9. What else we got? -1 and 5. So now remember, this is, I need to clean up my space. So this is this guy. N, Q, P's in the middle, right? So Q is a end point. P is a midpoint. So if we are going from 3 to -1, how do we get from 3 all the way to -1? Subtract 4. Excellent job, Brandon. Subtract 4. I almost wrote that backwards. I almost put 4 minus. It's like my brain isn't even working. So then what's -1 minus 4 going to be? -5. We talked a while ago about good guys and bad guys, positives and negatives, right? Well, if you have -1 and -4, that's a bunch of bad guys getting together. Y'all know what bad guys do when they're together? They have a party. Y'all know what good guys do when they get together? Have a party too. So nobody dies, right? -1s and -4s are all -5s. All the bad guys are just hanging out and chilling. Okay, how do we go from 9 to 5? 9 to 5. Okay, subtract 4 again. So we're going to be subtracting 4. What does that give us right here? 1. What? You wrote it wrong. I hate when I do that. Okay, y'all get these now? Brandon?
They told me to answer something from the sellers.
I'm just telling you. Don't make me. Okay, your job is to finish practice 1-3 and have it turned in by tomorrow. Okay? You should have already started it last week. Y'all should have already started this last week. Huh? You got to 4? Well, you've got 10 minutes of class time. That will get a lot done between now and the end of class. All right, I got to shut down our